Of the Los Alamitos City Council. Thank you all for being here. I want to welcome all of you and to the students out there. Thank you for coming. This is a special meeting, and as such, we do not do the normal things we would do at a regular meeting, such as the Pledge of Allegiance, the invocation, and the oral communication. So with that, please, City Clerk, roll call.
Councilmember Edgar?
Here.
Councilmember Graham Mejia?
Here.
Councilmember Gross?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Murphy?
Here.
Mayor Kusamoto?
Here. Thank you. Okay, item 3A is the special order of the day, City Council reorganization, and I'm not sure how we want to handle this, City Manager, staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and congratulations.
Thank you.
The item before you tonight, we are bringing that back to the council at the request of Mayor Pro Tem Richard Murphy. So I will turn this back over to you and let you handle it as you see fit.
Thank you very much. So, opening it up to the members of the council, I will start with Mr. Mayor Pro Tem Murphy, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My purpose for bringing this back onto the agenda today is to resign the position and nominate Councilwoman Mejia for the position. The reason I'm doing that is I would have supported her for mayor. I think she deserves her chance, and she did not. There's less backroom deals that go on than you believe, because obviously with the Brown Act, very poor communication, and it was not my understanding that she wanted to serve, but obviously she does, and I feel that she deserves a chance.
Okay, with that, is there any other comments from the council members before we put it to the public for oral communications? With that, members of the public, if you'd like to speak on this item, please come forward. Identify your name. Okay, seeing none, we'll bring it back here. So, will there be a motion for what Mayor Pro Tem Murphy is suggesting?
Mayor, if I could just make a comment real quick.
Yes.
I'd like to say thank you to Richard for taking such a large step to do something that I've always said that I thought was important. In the past, we've always had a rotation. Each of the council members has the opportunity to serve. And Richard was very nice. He did come to me, as did the rest of the council members, and say that they supported me for mayor. But unfortunately, this year I have some minor surgeries that I have to go through, and it's just not a good year for me to serve. So I do appreciate that the mayor, Mr. Kusamoto, stepped up to take that place, and I greatly appreciate the support of the council. And I'll go ahead and put it back to you, Mayor.
Okay. So is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to nominate Councilwoman Mejia for the Mayor Pro Tem position.
Is there a second? I will second that motion. Okay, discussion. So the motion is to nominate, put to vote, Councilmember Graham Mejia for the position of Mayor Pro Tem. So any discussion among the council? Seeing none, okay. Let's call for the vote. So all those in favor of Councilmember Graham Mejia for Mayor Pro Tem, please say.
Is it a roll call?
Point of order per our charter, it has to be by roll call vote.
Okay, then if you wouldn't mind, please.
Okay, Councilmember Edgar?
Aye.
Councilmember Graham Mejia?
Aye.
Councilmember Gross?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Murphy?
Aye.
Mayor Kusamoto?
Aye.
Vote carries.
Thank you. Carries unanimously. Okay, thank you. On to item 4A, and we do have a bit of some breaking news on this one. I will ask the city attorney if you, Sandra, if you could explain what has happened on this one.
Yes, unfortunately, to be prudent, I'm recommending that we continue this item to a regular council meeting. There's a new provision of the Brown Act that was adopted in 2012 that prohibits the discussion of certain senior executives' compensation at a special meeting. It's designed to force those things to be heard at a regular meeting. There's some ambiguity in the definitions, but basically it probably includes department heads, and since this resolution does include some department heads, I would recommend that you defer it until a regular meeting, which would be 2 weeks from now.
Thank you. So we will defer this until the next regular council meeting. Thank you for that. Okay, item 4B, this one is the approval of the employment agreement and appointment of city clerk. Can we have a staff report, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to give the community a little background on this, in August of 2011, our former city clerk, Adria Jimenez, accepted employment with another agency and resigned from the city. And at that time, Wendy Clintonar assumed the day-to-day operations of the city clerk's office. And the past practice of the city has been to appoint the city manager as the city clerk until such time as a new city clerk can be appointed. So I'm currently functioning, albeit in name only, as the city clerk, but Wendy has been doing all the work since that time. So at this time, and for the past 17 months, Wendy has assumed the responsibilities. This year has been particularly noteworthy because she has achieved her CMC designation. It's a professional designation for city clerk, and did that on her own through a scholarship program, and also with help from our interim, Kathy Mendoza, saw us through the first municipal election under her watch and did a fantastic job. And so at this point, the recommended action is to approve the employment agreement with Ms. Clintonar and to adopt the resolution as such.
Thank you, Angie. Okay, so back to the council. Any questions that we might have for Angie on this agenda item?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, thank
Second.
you. Before we do that, I'd like to get public comment, so if you wouldn't mind,
I'll hold on.
And
Councilmember Gross. can we-
and before you vote on the motion, I'm going to ask you to make one clarification to it.
Thank you. So, members of the public, if you'd like to speak on this item, please come forward. We have that discussion, okay. Seeing none, okay, so we'll bring it back here. So, I believe, Councilmember Gross?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you.
And I second it. I do have a question. Would it affect this contract, being that we did not, okay,
That's what I wanted to clarify for you. The contract that's attached to this item makes reference to the resolution that you have not yet approved and may not approve when you consider it at the meeting 2 weeks from now. So I would recommend that that recommendation number 1 in your staff report, you just add language at the end that says, citing in section 3.3, which is the section of the contract that refers to the resolution, citing in section 3.3, the salary and benefits resolution in effect at the time the agreement is executed, so that the city manager can defer execution of this agreement until after you make your decision in January, and then the reference will be filled in there. It will either be the newly adopted resolution, or it will be the existing one, which is 2009-12, I believe. So one or the other, but the contract in form is fine. You just need to refer to the
Okay, so
current existing resolution. So,
do we need to clarify that in the form of a motion then?
yeah, so the motion needs to be amended to add the following language. Want me to read it just cleanly? Citing in section 3.3, the salary and benefits resolution in effect at the time the agreement is executed.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, let's put to a vote. Now, this one we can just do by, okay. So all those in favor of approving the employment agreement, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, passes unanimously. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Okay, on to item C, the city attorney, 4C, city attorney services, for a schedule to replace city attorney and a request for proposal. So, Angie, could we have a report, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you know, City Attorney Sandra Levin of Colantuno and Levin has resigned effective January 31st of this year, effective January 31st. And at our December meeting, council appointed council members Edgar and Graham Mejia to an ad hoc subcommittee. That subcommittee bravely met on January 2nd, right after the new year, and discussed a number of things. And so what I'd like to do now is paint a picture for you of how we are to move forward in simple terms. And then there are a number of items that can be deferred for further discussion. But basically, from this point on, January 31st is going to be upon us quicker than we know. And the city needs to find an interim city attorney for the period of approximately, our guess is 1 to 3 months. And the subcommittee has recommended that, to me, that I work on I work toward that end, and I gather names and talk to attorneys around Orange County and the Southland to put forth appropriate people to be selected as the interim. Now that is separate and distinct from the permanent city attorney process. And so what we recommend for decision tonight is to release the request for proposal for a permanent city attorney, because that will be a much longer process, and obviously a permanent city attorney is, you want the best candidate possible. So you have before you a sample RFP. This is one that the subcommittee has read thoroughly and added to, and but not everything in the sample RFP needs to be decided on right now. And let me call attention to 3 of those things. Number 1 is the calendar. The calendar for selection of the permanent city attorney and the calendar or schedule as found in the staff report, the subcommittee felt that this aggressive schedule ending in late February may be too aggressive. And so up for discussion tonight is, number 1 is the schedule or the calendar. Number 2 is the evaluation criteria, and that is found on page 8 of the RFP. And I'll let you page over and get there. The subcommittee felt that this criteria was all good criteria. However, what they felt necessary was that the weighting of this criteria was not determined, and that could be determined at a later time. So that is the second item that is up for discussion, and that can be either discussed tonight or discussed further council meetings in the future. And that's it. So it's the calendar or the schedule and the weighting of the criteria. Now, the discussion about the RFP in general, however, we are interested in getting that basically out the door, so that the process can start, and then the discussion of the 2 major items can follow. And I hope that makes sense. And Councilmember Edgar or Graham Mejia, if you have anything to add, please add to that.
No, I think you did a great job.
Thank you. Okay, so back to council here. So any questions from the council members for staff or for the ad hoc subcommittee? Richard, none? Okay, so opening up for public comment. Any public comment on this item? Seeing none, okay. Let's, so on this one, I will ask for a motion, but I think in light of what City Manager Avery had talked about, the schedule and the criteria, I think it's going to take a little bit of work, so let's see where we go. So is there a motion on this item?
I have a couple of comments.
Thank you.
Within the timeline, there's a couple areas that we really wanted to get feedback on as part of the ad hoc committee. The first one was this timeline basically lays out, the 14 steps to get a new city attorney. The one area is how much involvement, how much further involvement would you want from the ad hoc committee? There's a couple points in here where these people are evaluated and potentially brought back to the entire council. So what we've put in here, if you look at step 8, a special meeting, and a special meeting on step 13, we weren't assuming that the ad hoc committee is going to be needed any further, and we just wanted to make sure that to bring it back to the council, those were time, when we added that, that's where we started thinking there might be a little bit of a constriction, because the reason why we're bringing it back is we want to make sure everybody has input, and there could be questions and a cycle to go through. So those were the two areas that I think that, there could be a delay. So the 25th or sometime early April would probably be a more realistic time schedule.
Okay.
Jerry, I don't know if you had any comments on the schedule for that or anything else you were looking for.
No, I agree. I would like to say that I don't think we need to move at such a rapid pace. This is a huge decision for us to make, and this is one of the directors that we work with directly as a council. And so as opposed to these special meetings, I would like to see those be scheduled for regular meetings and the proposed council or calendar be addressed to show that and it be updated.
So maybe it's good to get a little bit of input, because I think right there is probably where Jerry and I started to not fully agree, is whether we have special meetings or wait and kind of put ourselves on a monthly cycle. The city council meets once a month now.
Right.
So it's kind of on a self-fulfilling prophecy of months at a time versus do we think it's important enough to call a special meeting? And obviously I'm on one side, I'm thinking special, and Jerry's thinking just stay in the routine of the city council. So I think we do need some input on that. So with that, Mayor,
Okay.
I'd like to get some input there.
Thank you. So how about we just go through Dean comments, concerns, questions?
Is the ad hoc committee going to meet and go through and do the first cut on any applications, or are you suggesting that the council do that entire process?
Yeah, we didn't come to a conclusion in closed session or in our working group, so we have compromises to bring it back to the council, and that you guys either decide the ad hoc needs to take a first step through it, but we're proposing the council makes that first cut.
And I would think that it would be appropriate that it come back at a regular council meeting and then make the determination if we have to cut it down at that particular point, limit it to 3 firms or 3 responses, and then do the interviews of those 3, the top 3 based on the council's review at that particular point. If we get a large quantity back, which I'm not certain that we will, but if we get a large quantity back, we need to have a meeting to call that down. That's why I thought maybe the ad hoc committee would take that step, rather than having the entire council go through, and maybe if we said, if there was, 10 or more responses, that the ad hoc committee would take and go through those and narrow it down to the top 6. Council then could interview those and narrow it down to the top 3 for the final, something like that.
We're here for you. You guys just need to let us know, because like I said, we couldn't agree at that point. We needed further direction from the rest of you guys.
I would prefer that we look at something like that. We set some numbers based on what we get back, and then make decisions, have the ad hoc committee review that, make decisions, and then bring it back to council. That would be my preference.
Okay. But if I can get clarification, Councilmember Gross, we were talking about timeline, and then you're talking about the criteria to assess the offerers on the RFP?
No, the timeline would be is whenever this closes, that we have if there's a large number of responses,
Correct.
that we have the ad hoc committee meet and call that down. Then
That's
if,
step 8.
then if we have a special meeting to go through that at that particular point, that would make more sense. Again, because of the 30-day notice or the 30-day difference in meetings. I don't want to put it off until, April, May, June. If we wind up with 3 potential candidates that we can interview, that's going to take some time to set up. And I don't want to delay the process. I'm not asking to escalate the process either, but I mean, I think we have to realistically look at numbers and how long we're going to wind up employing an interim forward as well.
Okay. So I'm not sure where that puts us then, but Councilmember Murphy, you have questions on the timeline and?
I actually would prefer the ad hoc committee, select the top proposers also, and then special meetings as quickly as we need to get this done.
Okay. So what I've heard, though, from Councilmember Edgar regarding the schedule, the 25th of February might be a bit ambitious. So I would really not like to have us constrain ourselves on that. So I think we've got kind of these two elements that sort of they're oppose each other. So how do you work them both, right?
So, Mayor, just a recommendation on item number 8, or I'm sorry, schedule item 8, council to evaluate bids. I think that's the step in the schedule that we're talking about. And if the timeline is incorrect and the 6th is too early, and that's your point, then maybe we change that date. But then there's 2 issues. It's that date and that step. Who's doing it?
Okay.
So if we can just get a resolution on that, that would be helpful.
If I may, my intent from the ad hoc meeting was to bring it back to the council to give them an opportunity to weigh in. I'm good with whatever the majority is looking to do. I do think that these meetings should be held, again, at regular meetings and not special meetings, but that's, again, up to the majority.
Okay, so with that, then I'm looking for a recommendation and a motion on this. So is there one?
I'll make a motion that on the items 8, 10, and 13 be changed to regular meetings, and with the caveat, if there's a need for us to act more expeditiously, we can add a special meeting if necessary. And then I'll defer. I believe that if we have 10 or less that we receive from our RFP from interested firms, it should come to the whole council, and that would be my motion.
Okay. So
Clarification. Sure. So on item number 8 then, where you're talking special meeting, and that's the council, and I thought we were talking about whether the ad hoc's going to handle it or the council.
Well, that's what I'm saying. My recommendation is bring it back to the whole council.
Okay.
and then that would put it basically, I think, at the 19th of February?
That's-
Or is that the 20th? I'm not sure if there's a holiday there. I think there's a holiday there.
So
And
will
then
it be
and it kind of pushes the timeline back.
Okay.
Okay.
19th.
There's no President's Day there?
Yes.
President's Day.
Oh, the 18th, okay, so it would be
Okay.
the 19th, got it, okay. So, so that is the motion, is there a second? Well, actually, we kind of, okay, the other parts of the report as far as the criteria, did you want to address that? Just a clarification, Mayor Pro Tem.
I just thought it's something that should be addressed by the council as far as the weighting. We've gotten ourselves into trouble when we had an ad hoc committee come up with a weighting criteria, and I just thought in the interest of avoiding those kinds of bad effects for both the community and the council, it would be better be addressed by the entire council. I don't know if Councilmember Edgar agreed with me on that or not. I don't recall. I
Yeah, no,
apologize.
I'm okay with that. I think what I'd like to do, though, is to hand off a specific action to the council to respond back to staff, to give some sort of input that's more structured than what do we feel. Because this one is, we can go and basically lay something out and
Right.
give it to staff and let them normalize it and bring it back and save us some time. But I'm okay with that.
Okay. So could you repeat your motion, please, Mayor Pro Tem?
Go ahead, Sam.
I'm not sure I followed exactly the process that you were describing, but if it involves sending the applications out to the council and having them comment and bring it all back, that's probably not allowed under the Brown Act.
Well, that-
You're
yeah.
collecting the information and developing it, excuse me, developing a consensus outside a meeting. So you can mark it up and have a form to fill out that you bring to the meeting and share with each other at the meeting if you want to save time that way. But you can't collect up all the information kind of behind the scenes and process it. So I'm not exactly sure what the process was that was desired here, but
I think
Fair that way.
recommendations, if I might speak for you, is that what you were talking about, Troy? Is make recommendations that could be brought to the council, as we did in an agenda before, where, the recommended actions of each individual council member or the mayor would be listed, and we could take whatever parts of that we liked and form our final document.
Okay.
Question?
Yes.
The deadline for submitting it is February the 4th for submitting the application. If we're pushing ourselves back to, say, the 19th, I would say that there should be some flexibility to allow a little bit more time in the process. And then, just for clarification, I believe Councilmember Mejia made the comment that if there was 10 or less, that the council would look at all of them. If it turns out that there's 10 or more, then my preference would be to have the ad hoc committee narrow that down so that the council is only looking at, for example, the top 6.
Okay. So I'm not sure.
So you want me to restate
the
the-
conditional, the ifs, thens, that gets a bit complicated, so.
Mayor, why don't we do this? We made recommendations. I'd like to see a proposed schedule, maybe at the next regular meeting, so that we're not doing all this, guessing as to how it's going to turn out and the dates that we're going to be doing it. Maybe we can make a motion for that to be set up. It'll give an opportunity for the council members to bring forward their recommended proposals for the weighting criteria, and then we can adjust it all at once.
You're talking the January meeting?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
I'm going to look to Angie.
Well, by that, you're saying that we will not send out the RFP until that time, because
Right.
the deadline for the proposers needs to be in the RFP.
Right.
Kind of cutting it close.
Well, that's why we were speaking in the ad hoc committee meeting about the need for an interim and going out for a second interim as opposed to potentially keeping Sandra's firm as our interim city attorney until we fill the position. I just don't think this is something we want to rush. I think that we need to be very precise and careful about it. That's just my recommendation, but I will support, again, what the council's as a whole is interested in.
I think staff is fine either way. It just, depends on what the council wants and recommends. And we can put this on the agenda for 2 weeks. We can come up with a new schedule. That's not to say that you won't come up with some new ideas, So it's, just to clarify, what I have right now is Jerry's, Councilmember Mejia's last comment is to delay the getting out the RFP until February 22nd, January 22nd, and revising the schedule. And then obviously the response period would be delayed by 2 weeks. We'd push everything back by approximately 2 weeks. And if more than 10 responses to the RFP occur, the ad hoc would narrow those responses to 6. Less than 10 responses, the council would look at all the proposers. Numbers 8, 10, and 13 would be changed to regular council meetings and not special meetings. So I guess the next step would be to delay everything and come up with a new proposed schedule, and then have the RFP and the schedule approved by the council at the next meeting.
That was it.
Okay, so, yes.
So just my only point is, so adhering strictly to a council schedule, we've automatically added 3 months. So is it that it's too complex to take in short term? I'm just trying to find the trade-off of why we don't want to meet for special meetings. If we need to kind of go through this, because option one, the ad hoc meets to take the load off and makes recommendations, and I'm with Jerry, that's fine. Option two would be to have special meetings if we want to try and make some progress on this and not just be on a monthly schedule. And then option three is to wait for every month. So if you just move those 3 special meetings, that added 3 months right there.
I don't think that's the case. I think the intention is that by the February meeting, we would start interviews if we've narrowed it down to 10 or less. You've got 2 sets of interviews here, item 8 and 10, and I think at that point we should look at a special meeting if that's what's needed, if it's going to take us 2 meetings to do interviews, because I don't want the interviews strung out. Personally, I don't want the interviews strung out for a full month. Once we select a candidate or look at candidates, we should be prepared to move at that point. The only other spot here was the weighting of the criteria.
Right.
And I don't see why we can't come up with that between now and the 22nd of this month when we meet with the new schedule. So I don't see it requiring 3 months. We should be able by March, by the March meeting, to have a candidate rather than pushing it into April. Does that make sense?
But I think if I can, I agree with Councilmember Edgar about if we stick to a regular schedule meeting, then that adds 3 months. But as you suggest, Councilmember Gross, about putting a special meeting somewhere in the between, because by delaying the RFP, the letting of the RFP, we're already into February, that we really won't have much to do in terms of enough time to have responses come back. So there's a compromise in there somewhere, I believe.
Right. Well, if you look at the schedule, item 8 is we would be narrowing down the bids, right? But
Okay.
if there's less than 10 and the council is going to address it as a whole, that takes that meeting out completely. Is that not right?
You still need to have some process where you select who you want to interview, unless you want to interview all 10. So there
And that
needs
could
to
be
be
at
a
a
meeting to decide who you're going to interview, then a meeting to conduct the interviews, and then after that, a meeting to award a contract.
That could be the February meeting.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If it comes before the council, we narrow it down, we interview the top 3. That doesn't have to be done at a regular meeting. That would generally be done at a special meeting. Okay, so I think I included that. If you go back, I said if there's a need for a special meeting, absolutely we could add that in there.
Okay.
10 would be a special meeting.
If needed.
Mayor, can I ask another question?
Yes.
So, by the way, I'm with you, Jerry, on that. When the special meeting to conduct the first interviews, are those open session or closed session? And what type of interview is that? I don't know. I mean, it's because it's a direct employee to the council, so it's a personnel issue, but it's a public contract.
You're allowed to do it in closed session, and that is typical,
Right.
but you don't have to.
That's how we do the city manager. Oh, we have not had that come up. I know when we addressed having you as our interim and then onto our permanent, it was done in closed session. So I just assumed that that would be the standard.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm not sure where we're at on this then. So is it you want to withdraw your motion, rephrase it a different way?
I can
I think you want
remake the motion, and if we can take the items that Angie said, the only thing that I believe that she didn't address when she went through the list of items was that if there's a need for a special meeting, we can do that. But the others would be referred to a regular meeting. Do you want me to relist what you said?
One of us has to do it.
Okay. Let's see if I did this. The motion is January 22nd, we would be scheduling, hopefully to send out the RFP. We would revise the schedule to address that. That would be a 2-week delay. We would, 10 or more, it would go to the ad hoc committee to hone down the number of potential firms that we would look at. 10 or less, it would come directly to the city council. There'd be no special meetings. They would be, the special meetings that are listed in the schedule would be deferred to regular meetings unless the council deems that a special meeting would be necessary. And that's my motion.
I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second, rather complicated one, but thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Mejia and
May I
Councilmember.
include one thing? And also the addressing of the rating of the criteria. I apologize, I didn't include that in here.
Councilmember Rager?
Yeah, no, I'm fine with that. Thank
Okay,
you.
so with that, so we have a motion, a second. Any clarification, discussion? Councilmember Murphy, any questions?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Gross?
No.
Okay, let's call for a vote on this one. I think it's just regular, okay. So all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Opposed? None. So, City Manager, you have your direction on this? Thank you very much. And with that, I think we go to our last one. So we will be going to close, and is there anything we do? I just,
Need to read the title, and then you'll
Okay.
discuss in the closed session.
okay, if you wouldn't mind, would you read the title for us?
Item 5A is for closed session, public employment of the city manager.
Okay, with that, we will be going into chambers in the back. I will come out with any kind of reportable actions.
Council comments? Do we do council comments?
Is that on the, it's not, this is a special meeting, so we will not be doing council comments. So with that, you're more than welcome to stay here, but we will be going to the back room for the rest of the meeting. So thank you all. And we'll come out and adjourn after we're done.
Good job, Warren.